Welcome to another episode of Your Money, Your Mission, the podcast designed to turn complex financial situations into actionable advice, powered by Johnson Financial Group. I'm your host, Kelly Mould, and today we dive into a crucial decision that many homeowners face, whether to move to a new home or renovate the one you're in. Whether you're feeling cramped, outdated, or just ready for a change, this episode will provide you with insights and advice to make the best choice for you and your family. Joining us today is Michelle Van Engen, Senior Mortgage Loan Officer at Johnson Financial Group. We'll hear some real-life stories and get advice to unpack some of the key factors when making this decision. Welcome, Michelle.
Thanks, Kelly, for having me.
We are delighted to have you. Could you briefly share with us a little bit about your background and maybe any stories on client experiences that come to mind?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I've been in banking for about 29 years. I've done multiple different roles within banking. Something that I love about it is just the relationships that I've established with people and helping them financially succeed.
29 years.
29 years.
I had no idea. That is fantastic.
Thank you.
So I know that today people are really struggling with this decision. And I know that in the past decade or so, we've seen a rise in these fixer-upper shows or love it and leave it. How do you help your clients make that decision? I know there's a lot that goes into it, especially in our current market, in trying to make that decision. How do they start?
Well, so I've had a couple recently that come to mind that they were thinking about renovating their home and they found out that they were pregnant and it was actually twins and they were in a 2-bedroom home and they needed more space. So they took they did the due diligence and they checked with some contractors and got some estimates, and they also worked with a realtor to understand, will they get back what they're putting into this home, or does it make sense to move and upsize? So they brought in some partners, which was great. It helped give them some informed information and details to make that solid decision. So they ended up moving. They did not renovate. They ended up moving. They found their dream home, which I'm really excited for them. They'll have a ton of space. So that was great. But then I have another one that they decided to stay and renovate. And this scenario, lots of memories because they built this home with their father from ground up. And they don't want to move. They love it so much. They put their own sweat into it to make it exactly what they wanted. And now it's just a matter of putting the money in for the new roof or the windows or the sidings to keep it and be able to stay and continue those memories.
That is such a common scenario.
Yes.
I know my husband and I just had that conversation in the last few years as we've dealt with a kitchen renovation and now 3 bathrooms actually. So buying new or renovating, both are hard, right? It's like picking your hard.
Absolutely.
But, you know, my husband made the argument that having stairs and bedrooms upstairs would be better for us in retirement. And so he's real pounding to stay in the home and do the renovation. Yeah. And I think I was just emotionally attached to the home. We have had, you know, over 20 years of memories, many generations of celebrations in that home. And so love the neighborhood. I imagine if neighborhood or school or any of that is a factor, then that's not a renovation issue. Right. But for us, we love it. And so we did go down the renovation road and continue to be going down the renovation road. So tell me a little bit about, you know, how you have someone start this evaluation when they call you.
Sure. Oftentimes, the first question I ask is, what prompted this? What's the why behind all of this? Is it location? Is it you're expanding your family? Is it retirement and you want to downsize? Is it school? You know, or is it finances? Maybe there's a job loss or property taxes are keeping, you know, so it's a bit of a burden. So understanding the why really helps figure out what some of their concerns are. If it's a financial thing, well, then we know that if it's a downsize, maybe they need a smaller home price, or if it's renovating, where are they going to get the cash if a job was impacted there? If it's location, well, sometimes it's simple. It's understanding your budget and moving. So it really depends on the why. That's the biggest part for me on where I start. And then from there, we talk about what's your timelines and goals for this. If it's a relocation, if you're getting married and you want to build a family, maybe there's some time in there that we have to save some money if you're buying a new home. If it's a renovation and it needs to happen fast, maybe it was a disability, an accident that happened, so you need to, make your house work for you in that instance. So maybe the time is pressing. So understanding those times and goals is really important as well, because from a financing perspective, if you're taking out a loan, some of those loans may cost more than others. Some may have a prepayment penalty. So you kind of need to understand that. That's really important. And then the last piece is the cost and the budget. So have you talked about how much money, if you're going to renovate, what that looks like, what you're willing to spend on that project? Where is that coming from? Have you brought in a financial advisor to talk through, does it make sense to liquidate these assets? And then buying new. What will that look like for you? Based on the current market that we're in, you might be paying more for a house depending on the size and what you need. Can you afford it at this time? So those are the three things that I really, really like to understand first before we dive into the details as far as different programs and options and experts and partners to bring in.
Sure. It sounds like you start with the why and then you kind of move into the how after that.
Yeah.
And are you seeing any trend towards more renovations than purchases? I imagine there's a lot of dilemmas right now because some people are living with great interest rates that they'll likely never see again. So I suppose that's a tick mark under Renovate.
Yes.
And yet it does come down to a math problem, right? Because if the house isn't suitable for some reason, your family's expanding, or maybe it won't be handicap accessible, right? So are you seeing a leaning towards one or the other these days?
So interest rate is it's a hot topic because those that are in 2 and 3% interest rate, to move and increase that rate, sometimes often double depending on the day, but then also knowing that you're increasing your cost. So there's two factors there. You're increasing your interest rate, plus the costs are high right now. We're in a seller's market. So you have to evaluate that piece of it. But also if you're staying and renovating, the cost, if you're borrowing money, is a little bit higher there as well. So it's tough. It really you get down to that why, and then you talk about those fears and concerns, and then understand the how, like you had mentioned, with assets that they may have or a financing program that would suit them.
Right. And it also, when you're thinking about renovating, it also, you have to take into account not just the cost of that borrowing money, but I'm undergoing a renovation project today. So there's a lot of dust in my life right now.
Yes.
But also with the current inflation rates, I got very concerned about, wow, is this the right time to be doing this? Should I be buying appliances and having plumbing redundant? So I had to think about the cost of those and had to recognize that, well, they're not going to go down.
Correct.
So I had to pull the trigger on that. But also the cost of labor. That is the biggest expense of everything that we're doing. And so in our current climate, and I know people are very concerned about this continuing to be a tough market. And so wondering if when you're talking with clients, are they looking at those things too, going, boy, as I'm thinking about this, it's a higher interest rate on a brand new home that might fit, check all the boxes.
Right.
But it's also more money if I decide to renovate and have those two options.
Right. And finding the labor sometimes is a challenge as well. That gets brought up.
Right.
The cost of appliances. I had a conversation with somebody recently regarding that. So you take all those things into consideration, as well as how your life will look while you're going through the renovation, right? There's pros and cons with that as well. I mean, you have to adjust and adapt to the dust and shift gears a little bit.
Yes.
So all of those things are very important to discuss so that you're not missing anything when you're making this decision, because it is a big decision.
It is.
And those details are so important because they can be costly and timely if you don't have the right support, such as help, the labor. That's a hot topic these days.
So I had a real estate agent tell me when I was redoing my kitchen, because I was evaluating, they're expensive no matter what, but you can spend enormous amounts or, less amounts. And so I was doing this kitchen and I asked him about the return on this investment. And he said to me, Kelly, when people buy a house, they expect a working kitchen, they expect working bathrooms. So you can put the money into it, you can update it. That always makes a house more appealing, but you can't expect to necessarily get every dime back from the renovation.
So true.
And then I did read an article about bathrooms. They said, people want to put in these luxurious bathrooms, and they rarely step back and go, you don't spend a ton of time in them. So you can make it nice without making it, a spa.
Sure.
So is that consistent with what you hear as well, that, it certainly is helpful to improve your home, but there is a limit to the return on that investment?
100%. So oftentimes right now we're in a seller's market.
Okay.
So, it could be paint, it could be the kitchen counters, but because we're in a seller's market and there's low inventory, some of that doesn't matter, because most likely they're going to move in and they're going to change it to what they want versus what you thought, and then you don't regain the money that you put into it. And some of, like you mentioned, the bathroom, that's a personal preference, right? If you want a fancy tub or fancy tile, but because we're in a seller's market, there's low inventory, people have to make decisions fast. So they can see past the cosmetic piece of it, and most likely they will change it. So oftentimes we're not seeing people change those things before they list.
Yeah, especially if they're going to list, right? And they know they're in a seller's market, so they don't necessarily have to put more money in, and they'll have hopefully a better return on that once they sell.
Right.
So if someone is going to decide, okay, I'm having this dilemma, and Michelle and Kelly have really not helped me because they've supported both arguments for both sides. What's the first step that they should do?
Sure. So my recommendation is have your conversation with a financial advisor. Take a look at your assets, make sure everything's in line to understand, should you be liquidating assets or do you need financing for whatever route that you're going? The next piece would be have a conversation with a realtor. So if you're considering the renovating, if you put X amount into the home, will you get that out? Does it even matter in the market that we're in today? And then also have a conversation with a builder or a contractor to understand the costs of those renovations. That way you're getting advice from all of those experts, all of those areas, to then make a sound decision to know I've explored all of this with the people that are in the industry, and now I need to make a decision. Do I renovate or do I move?
That is really helpful, Michelle. I want to thank you so much for being here today. And I want to thank all of you listeners for being here. Make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of Your Money, Your Mission, the podcast designed to turn complex financial situations into actionable advice, powered by Johnson Financial Group.
This podcast is not a recommendation to buy or sell any investment or financial product. Whether a particular investment or financial solution is right for you depends on the facts of your particular situation. Please consult your own professional advisors prior to taking any action based on the content of this podcast. Products and services offered by Johnson Bank, member FDIC, and Johnson Financial Group Company. Loans are subject to credit and property approval, bank underwriting guidelines, and may not be available in all states. Other loan programs and pricing may be available. Certain conditions, terms, and restrictions may apply based on the loan program selected. The term of the loan may vary based upon program chosen. Property insurance is required. If the collateral is determined to be in an area having special flood hazards, flood insurance will be required. Private mortgage insurance may be required on loans with less than 20% down.